next Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, friends. Kirk Henderson, joined today by Tim Cato of The Athletic. You all know him as Tom. Hey, Tim. How you doing?
I am Tom. I don't know. Actually, it showed up, my display name, when it asked. It had Tom filled in. So I guess I put it in as Tom last time.
Well, so we're here.
I'm a Tom to everyone.
We're having a nice, weird day following, the opening season, or the opening to the Dallas Mavericks season, where they lost to the Phoenix Suns last night in really painful fashion. And in a rare element of NBA scheduling, the Mavericks have 2 days off, which means we have 2 days to really ridiculously overthink and overanalyze every element of a 22-point comeback win by the Suns. And you were there live. You're out in Phoenix right now. That's why you're kind enough to talk to me. And I needed to get your kind of boots on the ground perspective, because I'm just like watching it from the game. So let's take off your reporter hat for a moment and put on your analyst hat. What did you see? What in the heck happened?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the game, I thought the first half just was so direct and clear and dominant that I wasn't even imagining that the script would flip like it did. And, even when the Suns were marching back into the game, even when they took the lead, I was like, oh, this is out of nowhere. This is unexpected. I'm still not sure they're going to win this game. I mean, at no point did I have a lot of confidence that the Suns were actually going to pull that off. Just based off what I was seeing. Obviously the Mavericks were, ass for that second half, and we can talk about why. I wrote a lot about Christian Wood, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to take off this hat. I just, I know that fans take games like this in differently, but it's just so hard for me to think that this has to mean anything or will mean anything, or the observations that we're drawing are ones that are actually going to become trends. We can talk about them, and we can talk about the likelihood of that. And, what I did and what I wrote about this game was really focusing on the trend and the questions and the theme of this early season, which is all going to be about Christian Wood and how he's used and his minutes and his trust and his defense. And that was my takeaway. And,
Sure.
The results aside, you can't brush aside the results, and this is going to be a tough year and every win is going to matter, and this could come back and haunt them. But it's just, I don't know, stuff like rotations on the first game, when rotations is something that you kind of go to and figure out as a season goes along. It's hard for me to be, upset about it, even in like, the analyst way
1,000%.
or whatever.
There was a guy on my Spotify Live last night who was like, just remember that Reggie was playing like 20 minutes a game until mid-January, and then by the end of the year, they couldn't find a spot on the bench for him because he had to play the whole game. So yeah, exactly. There's a lot to that. So let's just get into it then, because you're right. There's an element of overreaction that I find fun. I have a great time talking about the game. You wrote a fun column here on The Athletic that talks about, like, I'll just read the title because the title gives away a lot of what we're going to talk about here. The Mavericks opening loss still showed why Christian Wood could be Luka Doncic's best co-star yet. And let's just talk about Wood kind of in a just in a vacuum, because he was really fun last night. Watching him play, that was about as electric of anything thing I've seen in a while. For as much as I liked Jalen Brunson by the end, it was so different because he plays a game that's fundamentally smooth. And it's just, there's a lot to it that's really like aesthetically appealing. And frankly, just Dallas hasn't had this is kind of going to be sacrilegious, but we're talking like 2014-ish. Dirk was the last time they had a big man who could do anything offensively like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I wrote about it in my piece. I talked about it in my podcast today, 77 Minutes. And, there's two plays that stuck out to me, and it wasn't the highlight threes. It was, I won't explain them in detail since I've done that already. You can go check out either of those things to get the full breakdown. But it was a pass. It was a short roll and a pass to the corner for a Reggie Bullock three. And it was a Spain pick and roll, a stack pick and roll, as the Mavericks call it, where Christian Wood gets a mismatch onto Devin Booker and ends up in the paint and backs him down, puts his ass into him, and then turns around, gets the ball, turns around and scores. And it just felt like those two plays we've seen some big men make in the Luka era occasionally, and we've seen big men who can hit threes occasionally. But what's so enticing about Christian Wood is he brings it all in together in one package. And if you think of Luka's pick and roll partner as a extension and a function of Luka himself, the reason that Luka was getting trapped, the entire first half of this game was because of him, because he's Luka, and they were trying to get the ball out of his hands. And so if you view that partner of these pick and rolls that he's running as an extension, Christian Wood is going to make Luka better, or there's a real chance. We saw the glimpses of how he unlocks Luka to be even more Luka because of this wide range of skills. And that's what I thought was most intriguing. The scoring is fun. Absolutely. I don't think it's an overstep to say that, it hasn't been since like Dirk that, a big man in a Mavericks uniform could do stuff like this. And then of course there's the Kristaps Porzingis parallel, and, you have to make it, it's inevitable. I feel a little bit bad. I think in a kinder timeline, things would have gone differently, and we saw glimpses of it. But, being in Phoenix brought me back not to the last time I was in Phoenix, the game 7, but it brought me back to the 2 regular season games that they played in Phoenix. And
love this point in your column, by the way. Keep going. This was, I never thought about this. This was good.
Yeah. It was November of last season, and it's that first, or I think it was the first stretch that Luka had the ankle injury and was out. And Kristaps got a chance to run the offense, and he was okay. He was better the second game, but he looked better. He looked more comfortable. He looked like he fit in more, even though he wasn't, like taking over or anything. And that's it. If you don't fit in, if you look more comfortable without Luka than with Luka, well, guess what? This is Luka's team. See ya. And it was the right thing to move on, and clearly that has been shown, and he was off the team in 3 months. And so we didn't see that with Christian Wood. What we saw with Christian Wood was his amplification of Luka, rather than a player who needed to not be on the floor with him to bring the best out of him, and that is fascinating to me.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the specific elements of the game, the things that were happening that I've just not seen for quite some time. The foul drawing was really something that stood out to me. He must have drew 10 fouls last night. The other thing was, and this was a little bit of a surprise to me from what I saw in the preseason, was I thought he was active and a willing participant in the defense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I thought he was solid. I thought he was, there was one play I highlighted in my piece where he gets disconnected from Damian Lee's second to last shot, where he hits a 3 top of the key. And I mostly highlighted it as an example of this. He is earning the coaching staff's trust. Not to, like, I'm not picking on him. I'm like,
sure.
People, you lose your assignments. It happens. And he was overwhelmingly good that game. Christian Wood was. But he did lose an assignment, late in the game. It was a important 3 that cost them the chance to win, or hurt their chances to win.
Yeah.
And this kind of summarizes the whole, he's got to earn the trust. And
sure.
If it takes a few weeks or a couple months, I think that's fine. You know, I think fans are going to get antsy, and I understand it if he keeps playing like this off the bench. But if this is an established team that went to the conference finals, and Christian Wood is not an established player, he can
For sure.
earn this. And I think it's probably best for him and the Mavericks if he actually goes through and earns, whatever bigger starting or not starting or minutes. If he goes and earns that role, that's probably the better than just gifting it to him.
Well, then that allows me to pivot to the next thing. And this is where, as you being there and being in the room for, some of the press conferences and talk like that, it seemed like what I heard after the game, or was rather reading after the game, was Christian Wood said all the right things in a way that hit me and my fan just kind of in my heart, because after the Kristaps Porzingis experience, everything was laden with a second very obvious meaning every time Kristaps had something to say. I felt that what Wood had to say last night was very much in a vein of, I am taking responsibility for the things that I can take responsibility for. Free throws, defensive trust, elements of that nature. I sort of disagree with Kidd taking him out of the game, but he seemed to take it in stride. Now, reading stuff is different than tone. Am I off key on any of these things? What did you think since you were there?
Yeah, no, I thought that he was prepared for the question. It was the last question of his session. What did you think? 4 minutes, around the 4 minute mark, he's still on the bench, and yeah, he answered exactly as you would want him to answer it. He gave the "I'm happy to be on the team and I'm happy to be here, and I'm continuing to earn the trust, and it's a matter of time." And it's exactly what we've been saying, and it felt like it felt sincere. So
okay,
it doesn't matter if it's
I know addressing tone is dangerous because you're reading into some things, but it's just like after the Porzingis experience, he would say things with a smirk, and it's like, this dude is so well with the media training. He just knows what he's doing. And I take certain statements, really differently, because Kidd kind of got out there after the game and he did the correct coaching thing where he's just like, look, like we got stuff we got to figure out. It's and that element of this, like, probably put me off a little bit because I was just so, you stay, it's a whiny complaint, but you stay up till, midnight to watch a game and you lose on a shot to Damian Lee where they elected to keep Chris Paul on the bench. It's just a painful way to go in the first game of the season,
I thought it was also pretty interesting that he was the one who brought up the short rolls, and he said, unprompted, not asked about this. I followed up on it, but he said unprompted, I thought my passes to the corner were really good. He said something to that effect. And, that it's a little thing, but it stands out to me. A player isn't talking about the threes, and, I'm not expecting him to go out there and be like, man, I'm so good. Look at these things.
He's not talking about scoring 16 straight points, which was among, you lead with this as you should have. It was among one of the more crazy things I've seen done on the basketball floor in the last year.
And what a player could do is they could lead with saying, I got in a good rhythm. I'm happy I could help the team. They were getting me the ball. And no, you said a little bit about that, but it didn't seem like that was the first thing he wanted to talk about. And again, let's not get way crazy or reading too much into anything players say after games.
Sure.
But it's a little something. It's a little something. And just like everything in this game, I took note of it, and, enough note that I'm noting it here. And I'm just going to see whether it turns into a trend. And I'm going to see whether, repeatedly it feels like this is, the way that he's chosen to approach media, and feels like a reflection of his own outlook on his role on this team and all that. Or maybe there are comments that start, seeping in if, things don't go the way that he's expecting or planning.
For sure.
And I don't know, I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying, like that is my job, and what I try to watch in these, post-game press conferences, media appearances, all of these things.
Well, you're 1,000% right. You said this very early in the show that, like, and you wrote about this too. The first 20 games are a little bit of a wash. You want to get out to a good start, but what you're drawing away conclusion-wise, big picture, usually doesn't matter by the second half of the season because so many things can change between injuries, rotations, trades, lineups, whatever you're going to do.
Right.
I will say that if I'm going to overreact, I think the process of what happened in last night's game, a lot of the offense, some of the defensive stuff felt good in a way it did not last season when we were watching some stuck in the mud basketball. And I really enjoyed watching the team play from an aesthetic point of view.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, it's funny to come away from a 22, a blown 22 point lead and feel optimistic about it. But I think it's probably more notable that they built the lead than that they lost it. That's the feeling I had. And yeah, it's 20 games, like you said, or referencing what I said. 20 games feels like a good benchmark. It's not that the things in game one don't matter. It's just that we have to have the entire 20 game sample size to understand if they matter, to have the context to like view them and frame them in the right ways is basically kind of, the point I'm making there. And
sure.
And until we have that, I'm just not going to freak out one way or the other. But yeah, I definitely feel more optimistic than pessimistic about this team, what they're capable of, just where they're at right now, their ability to, win a couple games in the next 3 against tough opponents. I definitely feel, I think and the optimism I felt coming into the season, I usually skew more optimistic than otherwise. Just, I don't know what people actually think about me or say about me. Honestly, it's everything.
I think you're level-headed.
Yeah. And I think what I've really noticed is that I can find people who view me in both extremes.
For sure.
But I generally feel like I come into seasons feeling more optimistic. And basically what happened in game one, the blown lead didn't make me doubt myself. And what this team did in the first half did affirm kind of what I was feeling about them.
That's right. Well, Tim, I reserve the right to freak out because that's sort of my deal. Sort of my
it's fun. It's fandom. Fandom is irrational. I say this often, but like
it was fun.
People don't watch games like me. This is my job. Like I have to remain level-headed. I'm an analyst. It's my job. And if you want, to get that level-headedness, then come read my stuff or listen to my podcast or whatever.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
Go
subscribe.
Yeah.
Go subscribe to The Athletic. Tim and all the good people there on their wonderful app do great work.
Don't be a fan like me, or
sure.
Don't approach fandom like I approach my job. But do subscribe.
Well, you're the man for taking some time out of your day to talk to me. Like I said, please go subscribe to The Athletic. I'm sure you and I will touch base. We talk every couple of days, but I'm sure I'll have you back on at some point, and we will we'll commiserate more, and maybe in the next 20 games. So, guys, this has been Tim Cato and Kirk Henderson. Thanks for spending a little bit of your afternoon with us, and I will talk to you a little later in the week.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.